Kia ora, ko dia ho, hara mai, welcome to Homemade Let's Cook. Today we are baking bread and we can make a plain loaf, but what we're going to do today is just an extra small process is we're going to top it with cheese and sweet chili sauce. So before we get too excited, we've got a little bit of prep work to do because we need to get our yeast activated. Now, I tend to find that the Edmonds yeast works really well. You can have it in one of these shore bake, or you can just have the active yeast. The other little sachets that come in 7-gram packs, they're also really good as well. I've got a cup of warm water in here and it needs to be warm to activate the yeast. And into that, I'm going to put 7 grams, 7 mils. So, teaspoon and a half. And that'll be the 7. And that needs to sit there for about 10 minutes. And it just gives the yeast a little bit of time to activate. And after that's happened, I'll see you again. Okay, so our 10 minutes is up and our water and yeast mix just looks a bit mucky really, but don't worry about that, that's how it should look. Now into that I'm going to put a tablespoon of, I've just got vegetable oil here. You could use olive oil if you want to, doesn't really matter as long as it's a form of fat that you can use. Now, we'll just get our flour ready. So I've got 2 3/4 cups of plain flour in here, and I like to just shake in some thyme, or you could use maybe oregano or some other type of herb that you'd like to pop in there. Doesn't really matter, and it doesn't matter if you don't have any either. The other thing is some caster sugar, and again I'm just going to shake this in there, but that's probably 3/4 of a tablespoon, and then also going to put in just a little bit of a shake of salt there, and that's probably about a teaspoon worth. So we'll give that a little bit of a stir together. Make a well in the center, and in goes our liquid. So initially, you'll combine this with your spoon, and then we're going to pop it onto our bench and knead it. Now sometimes the mixture will end up a little bit drier than it should be, and sometimes it will be wetter, and of course you then have to either add some more liquid or add some more flour. Now at this stage it's time to get the hands dirty, because I think this might be, we'll just see how this starts to come together. It's not too bad, but I'm not sure yet, I may need a little bit more liquid in here, but I'm going to turn it out onto the bench in a sec. Just give it a knead while it's in here. Now some days your dough will end up softer, some days it will end up harder. It's really all in the proving process that all the magic happens, so don't worry too much about that. I'm just going to add a little bit more liquid to this one. To now put it onto the bench, and we'll keep on kneading it. Now I'll probably need to put some flour down in a moment. Now my dough has ended up a little bit harder than I would have hoped, but that's okay. Now if you're really into your bread making, and you're really serious about having a great result, then you will need this for 5 minutes at least. Sometimes I can't do that. So just roll it back and forward, make it into a ball. You can do a little bit of slapping as well. Just chuck it down. The main thing is you get it moving, and this is helping the yeast activate with the sugar as well. So give it a really good knead. And when your 5 minutes is done, we'll show you what to do next. Okay, so that's all I've got the energy for today. So I've got my dough here. I haven't actually had to put down any additional flour. Now I'm just going to take a steel tin aluminium bowl. In it I've put some of the oil and just spread that around with your fingertips. Then your ball will go in there, your ball of dough will go in there. We'll cover it with some cling wrap and then put it in a warm spot. Now it's a little bit difficult if you're in winter conditions, but if maybe the hot water cylinder cupboard or somewhere just inside where the light or the sun is coming in. The other thing you can do is put it on a really, really slow heat, your oven, and pop it in there. Don't let it get too hot, something like 30 to 40 degrees, and leave it in there until your mixture has doubled. You can leave it for as long as you like. The longer the better if you've got enough time and enough patience, but at least until your mixture has doubled. And then we'll see you back here after that. So your dough is out and it looks pretty amazing at double the size. Take the wrap off and then dust your bench with some flour. And it's time to do a light knead, only a light knead, because we don't want to punch too much of the air out of this. It will deflate, and don't worry about that. It's going to rise up again. All right, so we're just going to give that, this is what's beautiful and soft. We'll just give it a nice knead, not too hard, just nice and gentle. It's going to prove it again. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this into your loaf shape. Now, I like to just do a kind of a sausage shape, if you like. Just give that a little bit more of a knead. So that's looking pretty good there. We don't want too many kind of ridges in it. So if you like to shape it into kind of a little rectangular oblong, don't flatten it too much, and then have your tray ready. Just using our trusty tray there. Now this tray I'm using has got the holes in the bottom. It's actually a pizza tray. And the baking paper, of course. Pop it on there, and then what I like to do as well, just at this stage even, is to cut some lines into it. Now these can end up being cutting lines or just looks kind of cool. Obviously if we are going to put some cheese and some sweet chili sauce on top of these, so this isn't quite necessary. But just in case you weren't doing that, you could do this for effect. So that looks like that. And then I'm actually just going to rub a little bit of oil onto the surface. There's two reasons for this. I'm going to put the cling wrap back over the top while it's proving, and then it will mean that it won't stick. And also I'm just going to put a little bit of rock salt on there now as well, and that will help that stay there rather than run off. Okay, so that's in a lovely bread shape. And what we're going to do now is just going to use that same cling wrap, pop it over the top, and we're going to prove it again. Now, it's up to you how long you'd like to prove it for. Sometimes it depends how much time you have. It is going to rise when you put it in the oven anyway. So I'm going to give this at least half an hour, and then we'll come back and have a look. So our dough has now doubled in size. It looks a bit like a bread loaf now, but it's still got time to cook. So into a hot, well, moderately hot oven, at least 200, 220, can even be a little bit more than that. If you find once it's cooking that it's starting to brown on top too much, you can turn the temperature down for the remainder of the bake. We're going to keep an eye on this because once it starts to get a nice crust on it, we're actually going to pull it out really quickly and add that cheese and sweet chili sauce. But in the meantime, time to go in. Okay, so this is quite brown on top now, but it's not too late to add our cheese. So have our cheese ready to go. Place that over the top. Doesn't matter if it ends up down the side, don't worry about that. And then take our sweet chili sauce and drizzle it across the top. And then back it goes into the oven, and again we'll keep a good eye on it. You know when your loaf is ready, it's got to reach about 200 degrees on the inside. You could use a thermometer for that. The other thing is to lift it up, give it a nice little tap underneath, and if it sounds hollow, it's probably done. See you again soon. So here we are, fresh out of the oven. It's got quite a bit of caramelization on this. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to keep as much of an eye on it as I would have liked to, but we'll take that off the tray and cut it up shortly and have a look on the inside. All right, so now's the time to cut it up and have a look inside. We've got a lovely bake just there. It's still got those cut lines that we put in at the start. You can see that steam rising off. So you can give the dough a little bit of a tap, and that's just cooked, which is great. Needs to just rebound after you've tapped it in. So I hope you've enjoyed making bread today. Please join us again. Ka kite.